Sooner or later, everyone will discover that game. Usually this game will be in their childhood, a game they first get for Christmas, or their birthday, or see on the shelves at the store. Whatever the case may be, this game becomes a core part of that person's life. The story sticks in their mind, the characters etched into the fabric of their soul. For me, this was a game that came quite late in my childhood, but it was an experience years in the making. We're now at a point in time where there are people engaging online who aren't old enough to remember Undertale. Freshmen in high school right now were 4 years old when the game took the internet by storm. And while they could have come across it in the years since, they weren't the impressionable kids who adopted the game as their whole personality back then. While it's still an important part of my childhood, I never actually played it as a kid. I played exclusively on the Xbox, and I wasn't about to ask my parents for $10 for a game on the family computer for everyone to see, so I experienced it all secondhand. It took me until this year to actually get around to playing it. Of course, it's a great game, and I wouldn't be here without it, but it's not the game. It was Halloween night, 2018. I was out with a couple friends trick-or-treating. After a while, we headed back to one person's house, since it was still a school night and we couldn't really stay out that late. My friend mentioned offhandedly that Toby Fox had dropped a free game demo online, so we decided to boot it up on the computer. No cinematic, no credits, just a character creation screen, accompanied by very cryptic text and an eerily familiar melody pulsing in the background. I went about making my character, unsure how important each selection was. I gave it a name, and I identified myself. The mysterious voice thanked me for my creation, and then threw it away. Just like that, our journey had begun much like the last, with Toriel greeting us after our strange introduction. However, unlike Undertale, we already know the name of our silent protagonist, Chris, sporting an all-too-familiar striped sweater. We spend the first section of the game getting familiar with the town of, well, hometown, where we meet some familiar faces and some new ones. But after exhausting all of the dialogue options at the school, we get to meet the game's most important protagonist, and my personal favorite character. We're sent off along with Susie to get chalk for the classroom, and to make sure she doesn't get in any trouble. After some chalk eating and death threats, we make it to the supply closet. We join Susie in the ominously lit supply closet, but quickly realize we won't be able to find anything we're looking for in there and decide to turn back. We wake up on a cold, barren cliffside, donning some strange armor and a new blue complexion. It doesn't take long to find our unwilling companion, and we progress further along the path before we spot a strange figure up above. After narrowly escaping an untimely end, we find ourselves at the foot of a desolate town, a castle looming over the horizon. Upon approach, a hooded figure greets us at the door, relaying to us the prophecy of their domain. Our heroes are apprehensive to the idea of saving the world, and simply wish to return to their normal lives. However, our conversation is immediately interrupted. And that's how I knew this game would be different. The music, the battle UI, even the idea that mercy and violence isn't so cut and dry, this game wasn't just an Undertale sequel. After tiring out, Lancer quickly skedaddles, allowing the Hooded Prince to continue his speech, revealing himself as the third and final member of the party, Rawry. He makes another appeal to fulfill the prophecy, to which Susie disregards and sets off on her own, you and Rawry not far behind. As you approach an imposing door, Rawry makes one final request, to approach this world with mercy, not violence. Regardless of your choice, you two enter, with Rawry sealing the great door behind you. It's been nearly 7 years since I first entered the world of Deltarune. The credits of Chapter 1 initially teased the idea that the game would come out periodically, implying the game would be much larger than its predecessor. So far we're only about halfway through the story, but already this game has become a core part of who I am, just as how Undertale was for so many people. When Chapter 1 came out, I was just a freshman in high school. Although my life was far from dreadful, I still often found myself seeking some kind of getaway, something sentimental to latch onto at a rapidly changing moment in time. This is where I found it. I remember during my study hall periods, I would listen to the Chapter 1 soundtrack on repeat, getting lost in the Dark World's atmosphere, dreaming about what it would be like to experience it in real life. I probably got a little carried away, but these songs mean so much to me, even today. They're a deeply nostalgic reminder of a pivotal moment in my life. I wasn't always so invested in the game throughout those 7 years. As high school went on and development updates became rather slow, as well as all the ridiculous world events that were going on at the time, the game faded into the back of my mind. I was excited when the second chapter was announced, but even though I tried to play it, I never actually finished it in high school. In my attempt to stay unspoiled, I deliberately blocked out all Deltarune content from my feeds. 2 years later, I still hadn't finished it, and I had almost completely forgotten about the game. That's when I decided to go back. I played Chapter 1 for the first time in years, and alongside that I finally finished Chapter 2. What made Chapter 1 so special to me would have almost certainly made Chapter 2 a defining moment for then senior year me. The character development, especially from Susie, would have satisfied a craving I forgot I had, not to mention all the new and fun characters I could have gotten attached to. But also, I missed out on the fandom entirely. I found my way back into it in the midst of its insanity era, where they had gone 2 years with little to work with and unknowingly had another 2 years to wait for the next installments. Playing through Chapter 2 5 years after the first one got me back into the world of Deltarune. I changed so much in that time. I was a sophomore in college, in an entirely different town with new friends and new interests. It was like building a bridge from my old self to the present day, connecting to a part of my life that I still hold dear. I never really left the fandom after that, and I knew that I would be there for the next chapter's release, whenever that was. Fast forward to April 2025. I'm walking to class when I check my phone to see that the Deltarune community was in a frenzy. Along with the switch to Nintendo Direct, we finally got a Deltarune trailer that officially announced the release date of Chapters 3 and 4, to be a launch day title for the console. I immediately texted the most Deltarune-obsessed person I knew. Deltarune was officially tomorrow. Well, about 60 tomorrows. But it was real, and it was only a matter of weeks. So we waited. I can't remember the last time I was that excited for a video game to come out. Maybe Halo 5? If Deltarune Chapter 1 was actually announced and not shadow dropped, perhaps that, but either way I was stoked. I had something to look forward to for the summer, which would be the first one I spent away from home. So fast forward to June 4th. I was working a 9 to 5 for the summer, so at the time of release I was sitting in my cubicle, resisting the urge to spoil any part of the game for myself. I went home and immediately bought it, but I wouldn't be able to sit down and play it until Friday. Those 3 shifts between the release and being able to dive in were agony. But then the day came. I booted up Chapter 3, completely blind. Truthfully, I'm not sure what I expected, but Chapter 3 was a wild continuation of the story. It completely turned the understood formula on its head, thrusting us into a Zelda adaptation with quizzes and puzzles, accompanied by commentary from the chapter's antagonist, Mr. Antenna. It takes quite some time to get back to the gameplay we're used to, which is almost immediately interrupted by I was on a call with my friend for the chapter, so we sat for a bit to discuss what we had just witnessed. I wasn't sure where it really fit in on my Deltarune experience. It was very unorthodox, but with a huge plot progression slapped on right at the end. I decided to follow Toby Fox's advice to wait a bit before playing Chapter 4 to let it digest, but that Sunday I was ready to dive right in, again not sure what awaited me. Toby Fox did say the chapter was rather short though, so surely it'll be a quick in and out adventure, right? Just like the first two chapters, we wake up in the light world and go about our usual routine. Except we don't jump into the dark world just yet, instead exploring hometown in new locations we haven't yet seen, including Noelle's house where we get more lore on her missing sister and even get to meet her mom, the mayor. This whole section took about 2 hours as I tried to explore all the little secrets in hometown. It really felt as if this whole section could have been its own chapter, to the point where I wasn't sure just how extensive the dark world content would be. I love Deltarune, and I have loved all of the funny characters and interesting locations the game has offered so far. But the Sanctuary Dark Worlds? Jaw-dropping. The whole vibe of the Dark World has completely shifted, from these whimsical new worlds to legitimately incredible fantasy settings that are just begging to be in an RPG like this. The music in these Dark Worlds are the best thing Toby Fox has ever worked on. The change from a lighthearted adventure with less emphasis on the plot to a dense tapestry of lore, emotional scenes, and thrilling sequences acts as an emotional climax to the first half of Deltarune's story. I will never speak ill of Toby Fox making us wait extended periods of time, because I want him to take all the time he needs to make the best game possible. Chapter 4 alone has made the last 7 years of waiting worth it. I can only begin to understand just how imaginative this game will be when it's all said and done. Deltarune was already one of my favorite games ever, but I would argue that Chapter 4 has cemented it as my number 1. Now, I didn't come here just to retell the entire story of the game so far. I haven't really mentioned any of the characters or the major plot elements past the first 20 minutes of Chapter 1. It's a special experience, and if you have the time and money, I really think you should go do it yourself. So, what am I here for? Well, I told you what Deltarune is, but the thing that I wanted to talk about is what it means to me. When Chapter 1 came out, I was 14. I celebrated my 21st birthday just a few weeks after Chapter 3 and 4 released. Although I don't have a ton of videos over that span, you can probably tell just how different I am from this kid. I went through an entire 4 years of high school, and as I'm writing this, I'm about to start my senior year of university. Deltarune came around at the perfect time. I was around the same age as the protagonists. High school was such a big jump for me mentally, and that jump was pretty intimidating. When I played Chapter 1, it introduced me to a brand new world with characters I could latch onto. I would often daydream of a dark world opening up in my school and all the adventures I could go on. I saw a lot of myself in Susie. Not because I was a misunderstood bully, but truthfully I really just wanted to be that cool and mysterious. I am very much not that. But now that she has grown into the game's heroic main character, I continue to admire her. Not only that, but I saw the characters and the people I knew in real life. I could put myself in that situation as another teen going through self-realization. Even today, as an adult who will be entering the real world soon, I still resonate with the story and hope people around middle and high school will gain just as much as I did. A specific aspect that I love so much is the relationship between Noelle and Susie. The way these characters interact reminds me so much of those awkward teenage crushes I had in high school. I really do think these characters are perfectly written. I can recall conversations I had just like them at the time. I just want to see that relationship succeed because, quite frankly, it's just so damn adorable. This game is one of the things that builds a bridge to my childhood still today. The period of quarantine feels like a hard barrier between then and now. But I still remember first playing Deltarune, listening to the songs over and over again in my free time, feeling inspired by the game to do creative things on my own. And now, 7 years later, I feel like that same teenager again. I've been listening to the songs over and over again. It inspired me to come back to this dormant channel to talk about things that I'm passionate about. I'm sure in the future I will look back on these chapters the same way I look back on Chapter 1 now. Like I mentioned, I only recently played Undertale. This game, that was a pretty core part of my childhood, I played all 4 chapters of its successor before a single second on my own. I'll be honest, I was a tad bit disappointed. After playing through Deltarune, Undertale feels like a much simpler, rough around the edges experience. The music of Deltarune is more experimental, the characters feel more fleshed out, the gameplay more engaging. Of course, to knock Undertale for this is to ignore the amount of time it took Toby Fox to learn how to develop games post Undertale's release. Undertale is still a great game, but I genuinely believe Deltarune is better in every way. Toby Fox is not only achieving his dream of making Deltarune, but he only continues to get better at every part of development as time goes on. Being able to finish the game is something that will keep me looking forward to the future. Not that it's the only thing worth living for, but it's certainly one of the highlights. I have to know how it ends. I've been waiting since day one, since October 31st, 2018, I have been waiting for Deltarune. My Deltarune. Also, we're like a year out into the next chapter, so I do got that going for me.